So Haughey introduced his new economic program called The Way Forward, and he aims to have the budget deficit under control by 1986. Um, and it the Way Forward document is characterized by spending cuts. So Tony Gregory, who is at Independent, withdraws his support. So do the Workers' Party. Fitzgerald, our pal, Garrett, calls a vote of no confidence and he wins it by 80 votes to 80. So Haughey is out. Haughey's 1982 government is characterised by instability and controversy, which I think is how you would describe any Haughey government. There are still deep divisions within Fianna Fáil. There is still a large anti-Haughey faction. So it is no surprise that the situation continues. There's another general election. It's the third in 18 months. It's again a victory for a Fine Gael Labour coalition. Fitzgerald is Taoiseach again. The Labour leader Dick Spring is Taoiseach. Gemma Hussey, who's a past pupil of Loretto Bray, is the Minister for Education. I just thought I'd throw that in there. Fitzgerald and Dick Spring want to make Ireland a more pluralist society, where there is a more tolerance of people's views and faiths. And this brings about a major clash with the Catholic Church. Shocking, I know. So the coalition does provide some stability. They do make some changes and they do make some developments. So it brings about a real sense of calm in the chaos that had existed before. So some of the, I suppose, scandals that emerged during the coalition was the telephone tapping scandal, for example, which came out, which became public knowledge after the Haughey government, but happened during it. Sparked another crisis for Fianna Fáil again. People were starting to wonder whether Fianna Fáil were, I suppose, as legit as people originally thought. The pluralisation of Ireland was to try to make an Ireland where there was space for all beliefs, all ideas, all ideologies. The pro-life referendum was where the government, in fact, campaigned against a piece of legislation that it was putting forward. So this is the piece of legislation that was eventually repealed in 2018. So essentially, Fianna Fáil had already drawn it up but left office before introducing it. The referendum that was in 1983, some members of government, including Fitzgerald, came out against the legislation and came under pressure from pro-life groups. And it passed by 67% despite government opposition. So is it a good example of democracy in action? So the Eighth Amendment was enshrined in law in October 1983. And as I say, it was repealed in September 2018. So some of the other elements of the constitutional crusade that Fitzgerald went on was around the removing of the constitutional ban on divorce, Article 2 and 3, of the Constitution, which laid claim to Northern Ireland. But generally, throughout the 1970s in Ireland, there had been a shift towards economic liberalisation. Ireland was becoming a global trading economy. So throughout the 1980s, on the back of that, Ireland went through a period of social liberalisation. So there was calls to change laws on contraception, divorce, homosexuality. So there was lots of changes happening around the 1980s on the back of economic development.